Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. Welcome to the Building on Bitcoin virtual event. My name is Serrano. I'll be your moderator for today's panel discussion. And we're going to be talking about how to bring Bitcoin multi-chain and how we can do it safely, securely, and why users should care in the first place. And with us here today, we have a great group of panelists that are focused on moving the space forward. Alexi, Engin, Justin, welcome to today's program. We'd love it if you could start off with just a brief introduction. If you could introduce yourselves and your project, and we'll go from there.
All right, I'll go first.
Alexi, Alexi, why don't we start with you?
Well, so I'm Alexei. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me on. I'm one of the co-founders of Bob. Bob is a new Bitcoin Layer 2 stack where we aim to unlock new use cases for Bitcoin and do that in a way where we can inherit Bitcoin security, but also be connected to other ecosystems. I'm a computer scientist by trade and have been working on Bitcoin bridges for the last, it's 9 years for me now. So really got into Bitcoin pretty early and have always been trying to unlock new use cases without forking it. And yeah, super happy to chat about this today.
Awesome, thanks Alexi. And then Engin and then Justin.
Hey Andre, my name is Engin Erdogan, and I lead product at Thesis. Thesis is a venture studio that is building on and with Bitcoin. Our flagship product is TBTC. TBTC is a decentralized trust minimized Bitcoin bridge and an asset that is ERC20 compatible and for utilizing Bitcoin across on pretty much any chain. TBTC is currently live on all Ethereum L2s, Arbitrum Optimism base, as well as Solana, with a TVL of over 100 million. Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And yeah, Justin.
I guess my turn. Last but not least, my name is Justin, founder of Zeus Networks. And our goal is to bring Bitcoin natively to Solana without any censorships, without any centralized centralizations. Where I think so far, I think a lot of people realize that why we're trying to bring to Bitcoin to Solana is that you can stack your Bitcoin without everyone having censorships, like controlled by Zeus node. At the same time, it's like you're earning yield from Solana yield. So I think it's pretty exciting yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, as I mentioned, each of you and your projects have really been involved with bridging Bitcoin into other ecosystems for several years and have really been focused on pushing the space forward in terms of new developments and leading research and development and new products for Bitcoin. So it's great to have you all here today. Excited to get right into it. I'd like to start off the conversation at a high level. So I guess first for you, Alexi, what is the value proposition for bridging Bitcoin to other ecosystems? Why should users care about this?
I mean, I think there's 300 million reasons, and that's the number of Bitcoin users, right? I mean, we have 300 million plus Bitcoin users, and it's growing every single day. Bitcoin is the #1 digital asset in terms of adoption, not only in the crypto ecosystem, but also globally outside of our somewhat crypto bubble, right? And Bitcoin is also more than just an asset, right? It has political power. It has this vision that kind of started the entire ecosystem. And to this date, 90% of people that get into crypto, they first get into Bitcoin, and then they start exploring with other things. And now, if you take all of this and you say, well, look, we have the deepest liquidity, we have the most users, and ultimately, if you look at the crypto ecosystem, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Polkadot, Cosmos, the majority of people, they actually love Bitcoin. They have Bitcoin. They bought Bitcoin very early, and they would love to use it, but usually it's very difficult for them to use Bitcoin across these different ecosystems. And by allowing them to bring their Bitcoin into Ethereum, into Solana, into Polkadot, we can unlock completely new use cases. We can bring, I guess, hard money, right, into these other three ecosystems, because ultimately Bitcoin to this date is arguably the only credibly neutral digital asset or currency globally. And I think that itself has shown, like, and we have the numbers actually that show us, okay, there is more than $12 billion worth of Bitcoin in DeFi across different ecosystems, and it's growing every single day. So the demand is there. The question is, what's the best way to actually bridge it?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And at 12 billion is still a drop in the bucket of what the total market opportunity is for that, right? But Justin, I thought that Bitcoin was just digital gold, like a store of value. So why do you think users should be interested in this? What kind of functionality are you looking to bring from bridging Bitcoin to other ecosystems?
I mean, let's not forget about when Bitcoin started, right? And Bitcoin started like way early, like 2007, 2006. And then when it started, like nobody thought about like actually like the functionality of Bitcoin, like is actually Bitcoin stakeable or not, right? I think we start hearing BVN for the last 7 months. That's what I heard from Amsterdam, right? So, I mean, a lot of Bitcoin holders are Bitcoin miners or Bitcoin maxis, and why would those people want to hold Bitcoin to I'll change somewhere else? I mean, it's questionable, right? Like 6 months ago, I went to Amsterdam. Like I told one of the guys, I don't want to reveal his name. He's big time Bitcoin miners. Is that why would I want to give up my percentage of cold wallet holding Bitcoin to external chains? That actually hit me pretty hard in the point where why, right? Why would you want to expose your cold wallet Bitcoin to EVN? Why would you want to expose your Bitcoin to Sui or Solana, right? I think I talked to him. I was like, we have a solution right now, in the space, WBTC. You guys know how much percentage of WBTC holding in terms of market shares on a circulation supply? It's about 0.4% of supply. So that telling you we have about 99.6% of Bitcoin on a circulation doing nothing. Why is that? Do you guys know why WBTC not favorable? KYB, KYC, slow, censorships. Why can't we have a permissionless wrapper that allows Bitcoin? Like, for example, I hold a lot of, I don't say I hold a lot of Bitcoin. I hold Bitcoins. Why can't I have a solution that enable me to to communicate over to any other chains?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Want to make Bitcoin productive without censorship, do it in a decentralized way. That value proposition makes a ton of sense. Engin, I want to bring it over to you next. So, TBTC was one of the earliest projects that was live in production, bridging to Ethereum, and I know you're also in various ETH2s and Solana. And so I'm curious to get your perspective on what are the use cases that you're seeing that are really in demand right now, and what have you learned from that experience so far?
First of all, TBC and WBTC are the pioneers. Let's not forget that. I've been in this space since late 2014. Like TBTC and WBTC, they are the entity that we should respect for, right? But in the same time, that why can't we have the permissionless way that respect all these collateral BTC coming forward to any other wrap BTC chains? So why Zeus network is important for entire BTC networks is that let's say like SBTC or ABTC, CBTC, doesn't matter. Coming to Solana, we on the Solana side, when you come into like Solana, we have a collateral ratio, and let's say like Zeus network is about $10 million of collateral of a SOL. Then we should have a $6 million worth of equivalent of BTC coming to Solana. So, for example, I'll give you a personal example. So, $10 million Solana, and we should have like $6 million of native BTC communicated over. That's like 7:3 ratio. You guys see what I mean? So when Solana goes down, BTC goes up, we have like a gap that we can fit up for. That's when we have a I don't want to reveal this kind of alpha right now, but like we have like this like bear interest Solana LSD coming forward. But this is what I'm saying is that BTC on the Bitcoin side, they're not doing anything. And I talked to a lot of miners. I've talked to a lot of miner institutions that it's not like they don't want to do anything with their custodian BTC. Is that they don't have a solution for it. You know, they want to earn exposure from Solana, but they don't want to go for censorships, but they want to go for permissionless. Like I said, there are options. TBTC is one option, but in the future, ZBTC one of the options as well. But when you take over ZBTC to Solana, when you take 10 BTC, we have 15 BTC equivalent of collateral as well. So when you ask it, you think it's risky. If something goes off, your asset protected by 15 BTC equivalent of Solana on the Solana network.
All right, Justin, just for the interest of time, I want to bring it over to Engin. Engin, would love to get your perspective on this question as well. What are you seeing in terms of use cases?
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, the macro view first, right? Bitcoin is the gateway asset for many crypto users. A lot of crypto users start with owning Bitcoin, and then they kind of go to Ethereum and other tokens as well, if they were there. So from that perspective, I think we can consider Bitcoin to be kind of a sacred token in the crypto world, right? Sacred also in the sense that people have like very strong, sense of ownership, and they don't want to sell it. They want to hold it. The whole hodl thing comes with Bitcoin, right? So when we think about use cases, it's really, just like working with that baseline macro view and thinking that, like, what are the desirable use cases where you actually get to use your Bitcoin without selling it, without letting it go altogether? I think, like, if you were to sequence like what comes in the market as like the viable, the feasible, the desirable use cases, the first things first is that let's utilize without actually getting rid of it. So that, like if you look at the use cases of current TBTC distribution, it is providing liquidity and staking type of use cases that are already active on various chains, right? And then if you look at the future, again, like more native type of staking use cases and potentially lending and borrowing as well. These are like the primary use cases that come with TBTC. I'll add to this that one of the things that we are learning, and we can touch this a little bit later as well, but TBTC is, we actually have a minting app where you can actually, any user can go and deposit their Bitcoin and mint TBTC in return and use it in the chains where we are active right now. And one thing that we are learning is that it's actually important to be able to empower the platforms and different chains where they want to use TBTC in the way they envision is right for the evolution of their respective environments, chains, platforms, pools, and whatnot, right? So that's like why we have been investing more and more into our SDK, where people can actually embed the capability of minting without us controlling really the end-to-end user experience. They can actually insert that in as much flexibility or as much plug and play type of compatibility as they want, since we are in the process of also digitizing our own minting dApp into our SDK. Then people will be able to use it for whatever they see fit, really. TBTC is just like there to empower like whatever use case is appropriate for that target chain and target environment.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. It sounds like the first thing that I hear is that you're seeing a lot of demand just to make it productive and to earn a yield on your Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin's $1 trillion asset class. It is the best sort of monetary asset and store of value. And so being able to earn even a few percentage points on this, there are a lot of users and a large market opportunity to be able to make that possible. And it sounds like you've also been focused on developing the right sort of tooling to allow developers the ability to take advantage of that use case and make really innovative applications with it. So all that sounds great. I'd love to move on to go a level deeper into the technical mechanisms that can enable Bitcoin bridging into other ecosystems. Alexei, I'd love to come back to you. Can you just give us an overview of like what are the technical approaches that we can take to bridge Bitcoin multi-chain, and yeah, just give us a sense for the landscape right now and maybe how you're thinking about it at Bob.
Absolutely. I think like if we think about using Bitcoin cross-chain, there's generally two ways of doing that. There is swaps, where you essentially, I send you Bitcoin, you send me ETH, for example, on Ethereum, and we just coordinate that these things happen atomically. And there's a ton of mechanisms to do swaps using HashML contracts, using cross-chain proofs, but they haven't seen as much adoption. I think Thorchain, which uses some form of like middle ground with wrapping as well, is probably the most active example of swaps. Most of the other use cases you see happening on the wrapping side. So you lock Bitcoin on the Bitcoin side, and then you create a representation that represents that locked Bitcoin. And here, ultimately, it's important to realize that Bitcoin only exists on the Bitcoin side. So this means whenever we bridge Bitcoin to another chain, we create a representation. It's not really it's not Bitcoin itself. It's a token that represents some Bitcoin locked in some way on the Bitcoin chain. And one realization that we all have to kind of make is Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts. And because of this, Bitcoin does not provide us with, as of now, like there is new stuff coming that might enable this. But for now, as of today, if you look at the things that are live, we can't react to things that happen on Ethereum, on Solana, and other networks. And this means that depositing into a bridge for the user is ultimately the same as depositing it into the exchange. You're giving up custody of your Bitcoin to receive Bitcoin on another platform. And the big question of bridging is who has custody and what is that custody kind of designed for? And I think if you look at the landscape, we have centralized solutions like WBTC, which are very dominant, very robust, have been working flawlessly for years. And because in-house, of course, WBTC BitGo uses an MPC solution with a distributed keys and they're very robust, but they control that. But if we want to go and look at the trust minimized approaches, we have a spectrum that ranges from statistical security, where we try to have multiple people, as many as possible, participate in the custody of the Bitcoin. And the more people you have, the more robust it becomes, because you assume that the majority of these people is honest. And if you have 5 people, you need 3. If you have 50 people, you need 30. But you also need to corrupt 25 plus 1, right? In a case of 50 participants. So it becomes more difficult to attack. And TBTC here is actually one of the leading providers of the statistically secure bridges, with a threshold signature model that currently scales up to 100 and should hopefully scale even further in the future. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have collateral-based models, where you say, well, we use collateral and incentives to make sure that whoever has custody is honest, and at the same time, we can reimburse users if something goes wrong. And that's a design that we introduced back in 2018, and that has been since then implemented by TBTC V1, for example, was the first production-ready implementation of this. The design back then was called Xclaim, but now you have it used across multiple networks. And I think Zeus is also using something similar. And then you have things in the middle, right? So you have things that do both. And that's something that we're planning for Bob, is to use a model like TBTC. Actually, we're working closely with Threshold because we do identify TBTC as the currently most robust Bitcoin bridge. But on top, you allow people to purchase insurance. So instead of having this collateral locked up by the operators from the start, and which makes it quite expensive because you have a lot of capital locked up and you need to somehow generate yield on it, because otherwise no operator will want to lock up this capital up front. And then if you make it opt-in, so you use a very secure bridge that has a big multi-sig, big threshold sig, and then you allow people to purchase insurance, that is, as of today, the most secure approach in terms of like being practical and secure. And then of course we have BitVM, but I think we're going to touch upon this a bit later.
So Alexei, you talked a little bit about trust minimized Bitcoin bridging, and this leads me to a topic that I think is super important for everyone listening to understand. A question that I think users naturally have is really how do we ensure that their Bitcoin is going to be safe and secure when they're moving it into other ecosystems? I'd love to just get a quick understanding from the panelists of what approaches are you taking to ensure that Bitcoin is secure, and how should users be thinking about this? Open question to the panel, whoever wants to take it.
I can go next. I mean, Alexei gave like a pretty thorough overview of the spectrum of options. And thanks for the nod there, Alexei. So, I mean, we can look at it in two ways when we talk about security. One of them is just pure math, you know, like technologically, how you're securing that bridge, that asset. And for TBTC, what we do is we utilize state-of-the-art threshold cryptography, MPC. So the deposit assets are custodied in a constellation of wallets that are dynamically created and managed, and whose private keys are encrypted and distributed per that threshold, underlying threshold cryptography. I mean, it's just like in a nutshell, that's how it works. Now, like how you manage and govern that system is the second aspect of that parameter, the question, right? So in terms of governance, TBTC is secured and governed by threshold network. Threshold network facilitates the federation of nodes that run TBTC as a network, right? And that network has been live for a long time, and there are like a lot of participants in it. Big names, individuals, you know, whatnot, and we are working toward making that system, that network, together with Threshold Network, completely permissionless. Right now, we have, I believe, close to 150 nodes up and running, and then a subset of these are whitelisted to create and manage actively the new wallets, which I believe are again progressively increasing in that spirit of progressive decentralization. I believe we have about 26 of them right now. I would tell you that, I mean, both these challenges, just to zoom out, both in terms of the infrastructure security per, you know, math and technology, that's like one challenge. And there's always room for improvement in that per, you know, new algorithms or, you know, it's basically just like an improvement vector on its own. The tricky part that I find really is like the more unpredictable part of the challenge, where I'm proud to say that we made a long way, as Andre mentioned, is that bringing together an organization, a governance mechanism that's autonomous, right? Who can actually run this client software that's running on the nodes and have people participate and make sure that everybody's heard and everybody's included in the processes. So this by itself is a state challenge, right? It's less of a technological challenge. So I think that like any project that's getting into this this business of bridging, I think tend to start with kind of like the technological solutions, because most of us are coming from a software background. But the stateliness of how you actually accomplish this is like a real challenge, and yeah, I'm happy to dive into that more if that's needed.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, Engin, and I think speaks to how you can have a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that is working together to create these new software changes. Certainly seems like Threshold DAO is one of the more interesting examples that is doing this. Now, I want to move us to concluding thoughts. I know we're almost at time here for our panel. Maybe we can just go sort of rapid fire down the line around just sort of any takeaways that you all want to share to conclude today's panel. What sort of promising developments are you all looking towards around Bitcoin bridging? What's exciting you? And anything else that you want to leave the audience with? Maybe we'll start with Alexi, Engin, and then Justin can get the final thought.
Cool. So, I mean, I think the one thing that I'm most excited about, and I mean, we've been hearing about this a lot, is BitVM. And to simplify this and just explain what it gives us, right? Today we have models and that are based on majority assumptions. So we have 51 out of 100 signers, so N of M, right? As long as the majority of people are honest, the custody of Bitcoin, the bridge is secure. Now, what BitVM does, it takes this to 1 of n. So as long as one operator in 100 is honest, and this operator could be you if you become part of the set, you know that the bridge will be secure. And the way BitVM does this is using challenges and fraud proofs. So we allow the one honest operator that we need to assume in the set to challenge the others and prevent them from stealing. And that in itself is a massive improvement in terms of capital efficiency and security. And hence, that's the one thing that I'm really excited about for the next couple of months. We'll see BitVM come to production towards the end of this year. And then we'll definitely see a new toolkit for bridges to use to become even more secure.
Yeah, I totally agree. It definitely seems like BitVM is a really interesting solution to offer more trust minimized bridging. We're certainly taking a close look at it at Stacks to understand, can Stack signers integrate BitVM to offer more trust minimized bridging? So definitely something that I think is worth for everyone to be following closely. Engin, how about you?
I would double down on BitVM. I almost think about BitVM as like a hybrid technology in cars. Okay, it may be a differentiating factor in like a very short period of time, but then has the potential to become commodity very quickly. Okay, so it's something to really look forward to. I'll bring like an exciting market view that I'm noticing here. Historically, just as I mentioned, the sacredness of Bitcoin, I think there's like a forced binary narrative upon Bitcoin, which is about, like you hold Bitcoin or else, like that's kind of like the stoic, the Bitcoin max narrative. That what we are noticing is that maybe there is a little bit of a global warming of that type of narrative, where we start seeing more of the spectrum, different shades of it, where maybe it's not just like that binary of like you do this or not, right? But more that like, what are those in between shades where I can actually utilize my Bitcoin without, feeling like I'm a sellout to the core of the mission, so to speak. Okay. So in that sense, I think we are likely to see more and more utilities. Like one of the things that we are working on at Thesis is to bring a native liquid staking type of solution titled Acre to market this year. So again, like it goes to that, like for a lot of people who are holding Bitcoin and idly, that we can actually give them a way to start utilizing without, getting rid of the underlying asset. That's one thing. The other thing that we look forward to is really this. So one of the things that we learned running the bridge for a few years now is that the concept of bridging as an additional layer to the user experience actually adds a lot of cognitive overload to users, right? So like imagine that you want to say deposit your assets in Solana to some pool. Let's work with that type of use case. You actually have to first mint TBTC and then mint that bridge that minted TBTC to Solana, and then do something there. It's like we are looking at like a 3-step journey. So more and more we are realizing that it makes sense to mint TBTC natively wherever you will be using it. That's why we are doubling down more on eliminating that additional bridging step and more highlighting the SDK as like the point of distribution, so that people can incorporate it wherever they would like and use it wherever they would like. So that's the other thing that we are really seeing. There's like a lot to look forward to within these two realms, but I'm generally super excited, just as a closure thought, because when we look at the this new energy around Bitcoin, what I'm realizing is that it's partly also because not a lot of new money is coming into crypto. Okay, I'm not talking about ETFs. ETFs are the use of asset as like a diversifying parameter. I'm talking about the utilization of assets. Like not a lot of assets are coming in, and Bitcoin is that, right? Bitcoin is already crypto native. It's already in there, and this warming of the maxiness of the Bitcoin world is actually enabling possible new use cases and possible new capital flows into new areas, which is like very, very exciting. I mean, we are talking about like $1 trillion market here. So
yeah, that's super well said, and very interesting. And Justin, I want to turn it over to you. What do you think? Final thoughts?
All right. So for our perspective, it's very clear that every Bitcoin coming to Solana has to be collateral. So there's pretty perspective where there are like $10 million worth of SOL collateral on the Zeus node. There should be $6.5 million of big native Bitcoin moving to Solana. So I would say it's a bit different approach where we want to power Solana network. We want to make sure that LSD Sol in general can stake as a Zeus node to become a communication layer from Solana centric to Bitcoin. And a lot of you might have heard that stacks, we're looking into the code. It's feasible. So we could imagine that where SBDC wrap SBDC ultimate layer 2 and SBDC coming to Solana earn additional yield. So there are a lot of ways we can play on this. It's not just BDC itself, right? We could do ZSTX coming to Solana earn yield additional yield. So I'm very excited. I'm just excited in as a fact that we have grasped the layer 1 Bitcoin and now layer 2, the best layer 2 right now in Bitcoin stacks, period.
Yeah, well, that's a great note to end on. Thank you, Justin. As you've heard it here, there's been a ton of new developments in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Building on Bitcoin is back, and a lot of these new bridging technologies are going to play a key part of it. So really appreciate to all of our panelists here. Thank you for sharing your insights, and until next time.